Okay. We have a quorum?
We do. We have a quorum, Jim.
Okay, good enough. I'll get started here in 1 second. Okay, roll call.
Mr. Dason,
Yes.
Mr. Andre, Mr. Giantino,
Here.
Mr. Gasper.
Here.
Ms. McIntyre,
Here.
Mr. Cuddy,
Here.
Mr. Beer, Mr. Beer.
He's there.
Oh. Ms. Palmer McLeod,
Here.
Mr. Graves.
Here.
Okay.
Okay, I should have, my fault, I should have started our Industrial Development Authority meeting. Will come to order. Minutes for review and approval. The January 19th regular and governance meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Any changes or additions to the minutes?
Hello,
There are,
Terry?
yes.
No changes.
Okay, if there are none, then
Can you hear
all
me?
in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
You're on
abstentions?
mute, I think.
Aye.
Pardon me? The minutes of January 31st special meeting. May I have a motion, please?
So moved.
Second, please.
Second.
Jeff.
Any changes or additions to the minutes of January 31st? If there are none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
I can't hear.
Bills and communications.
We do not have any for this month.
Okay, report of the treasurer.
Hey, Jim,
Yes.
Roger's signaling that he can't hear anything. So I don't know that he's gonna be able to give a presentation.
I can do it.
Ah.
Okay, you're gonna do it, Taylor?
Yeah, I'll do it.
Very good.
Oh, let's see here. For the profit and loss, we have just your miscellaneous expenses for $24.18. Your contract services was your Q4 payment. That included your fee share. Normally, in prior years, Tracy would allocate this to last year. I let it show this year on your report, so you guys knew what was spent. Which brought your income to a negative $33,053. You also had interest income. There's a breakdown of the account balances. And then the balance sheet, it just gives a comparison between the accounts, your fixed assets, your liabilities, and your equity. So your retained earnings were more than previous. And that's about it. Everything else is pretty much the same, consistent.
Okay, the P&L. Does anybody have any questions about the P&L?
I guess the question I have, it probably was explained, I guess I wasn't, didn't get the volume. The contract services number is the extra amount due to CEDA, as we had talked about before. I guess the only other thing I would say is in passing here is just to take a look at the annual budget. We're budgeting 200,000 in fees this year. And if everything comes into line, we'll have an income. Everybody see that all the way over to the right-hand side. We'll have we look like we have an income, operating income of about 111,000. So that will more than cover the 57,000 in marketing and promotion. So I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah. It's already covered in that 111.
Yeah. I guess I would say, as a caveat, if everything goes the same as last year, from a budgetary point of view, just for information purposes, the 20,000 is the 4 quarterly payments of 5,000 each to CEDA. If everything remains the same, we will have an additional 30,000 to pay at the end of the year next year as an override to CEDA based on our existing contract. So
Well, the thing about the contract services is that percentage at the end of the year, we can't project that, so we always leave that as the base. We just put the base in, and then at the end of the year, it's added on.
yeah, I understand it, and I'm saying to ballpark that, if everything is consistent, say with what happened in 2021, I would expect that you'll have an additional 30,000 in expenses, which is good. It shows that we will have had a good year.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's just the point I made. So
Could I have a motion on the balance sheet and the P&L, please?
So
Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
I
Opposed, abstentions carried. Unfinished business. Do we want to go to new business first?
Yes, please. We have reps here from the Auburn Community Hospital project to give a presentation and overview of their upcoming plans.
Okay,
Okay, so Andrew, I know I'm gonna butcher your last name. How do you pronounce it?
It's Bodowis.
Bodowis.
Right.
So Andrew Bodowis is from Park Grove,
Correct.
the private developer, and then we have Jason Lash, and I'm sorry, sir,
Tony Francicelli.
Tony Francicelli, both from the Auburn Community Hospital.
And Tony's the board chair of Auburn. I'm the acting CFO. So,
Take it away.
all right, thank you. Thanks for having us in this afternoon. And for those, as Jason said, I'm chairman of the board of trustees for Auburn Community Hospital. And this project is a high priority for the board, and it's a great project for this community. So well needed, will be a cornerstone for Auburn Community Hospital, where it's going to sit, and it will make it so much easier for community members to be able to get the services they need locally right here in Auburn. And we're partnering with some of the doctors from upstate will be servicing this facility. So we're going to have a state-of-the-art facility and outstanding doctors and our local nurses maintaining this facility. So really, I think Andy and Jason probably has the details behind this whole project as our acting CFO at the hospital. So I'd like to turn it over to you and try to answer any questions at the end. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for giving us the time to talk about the project. It's good to see many of you I haven't seen in years. So that's very nice to do. It's about a $14 million project in total. The hospital, the board, Scott Berlucci have been working with SUNY on this for years. A couple years ago, they started a hematology service at the hospital. And this was the next progression of that to offer radiation services. So currently radiation services are not offered in Auburn. You have to travel to Syracuse. Oswego, Cortland, they all have radiation services. So SUNY wants to partner with this to provide the professional services and oversee the center. Andy is going to develop the property for us. There's about an acre of land on the corner of North Street and Lansing. It's a parking lot that we would sell to Andy. He would develop the property for us. We would lease it back and have an option to purchase in the future if we're able to raise some funds. Without Park Grove, we would not be able to financially do this project at all. We don't have the resources to pay $9 million to build the building, and we don't have that cash outflow to do that. So this is the way that we could do it, the only way, and we really are appreciative that Andy wants to work with us on this project. Our ask is that, you take a look at this as if we were putting it up on ourselves, right? Because we wouldn't have to pay any taxes on it and, sales tax and all that stuff. And then the lease is a pass-through. So any costs that he incurs are going to come to us through the rent. It's a highly leveraged deal, right? So right now we put in a certificate of need with New York State. So that is in. It's going to take months to get it approved, but we've got all that in. We want to get everything rolling so that Andy could take advantage of the construction season in May. But it has not been approved yet. The Department of Health normally likes a equity contribution of at least 10%. We're putting in 5%. So the equipment will all be leased also. So there's a significant amount of equipment in this, another $4 to $5 million. It'll be state of the art, just as if you were in Syracuse. So the same equipment that they have. And, that's the summary. Andy can go through the pictures and what it's going to look like. But we wouldn't be able to do it without the developer in mind, based on our financial resources that we have at the hospital.
Excuse me, what is it you're looking for from us?
At this point, Andy's put in he's worked with, right, Taylor.
Yeah.
So Jim, Taylor and I had gone to the city last month for the initial meeting with their planning department, and this project is starting the planning process. It's a bit backwards. Usually we'll present a project to the IDA after they go through the planning process, but we thought it would be good just to kind of expose what this project is to the IDA so they can kind of wrap their head around it, as it's not, it wouldn't be a traditional structure of a project.
Okay.
Jason's already explained. So they're not asking for anything. It's just kind of an overview of this project that would be coming to the IDA at some point for incentives.
Okay.
So thank you, Danielle. As Danielle said, my name is Andy Bodewis, and my company is Park Grove Realty. We're based in Rochester and have developed throughout the Finger Lakes for years. And we've been working with Jason and Scott at the hospital for since spring. We started talking to them, and they were far along in their desire to want to have a cancer center in Auburn that would alleviate the need for people in the community to drive to Syracuse or Rochester for daily cancer treatment. And we began talking to them in an effort to help them be able to provide something that's really important to the community. And so we have a lot of experience in community development projects. It's kind of the hallmark of what we do. We're currently working with Cuyahoga Medical Center on actually a very large project on 13 right in the center of Ithaca. And we're working on this project with Holt Architects, and Holt is also working on the project with us in Ithaca. For us, it's all about providing a really nice development that's an asset to the community, whether it's a medical office building we're developing or apartments. We do a lot of apartments, and we also develop mixed-use buildings. We're looking to create a real asset for the community, something that's beneficial to the community. If that's in fact true and it's beneficial to the community, it's beneficial to us as the owners. In this case, it's unique because we are working very closely with the hospital. As Jason said, we will have an acre of land that we'll subdivide and we will take ownership of. But essentially what happens is we take on all the obligations of building and developing this property, providing the financial backing and guarantees and all those sorts of things to make it happen. And ultimately we'll enter a long-term lease agreement with the hospital, and the hospital will run and operate it as though it's their building. And this is a very common way of making these kinds of projects happen. And we're very happy to be working with the hospital to help make this happen. With that said, I'd like to take a moment, and if I need to move, just tell me, because I'm going to share with you the visuals and plans of what we have developed thus far. We did meet with the city staff. We have submitted for site plan approval at the city. We're on the agenda on March 1st for initial site plan meeting with the city planning board. The city is very much in favor of this project, and I believe like the project a lot. And ultimately, as Jason mentioned, we would want to work with you for a tax structure, a pilot of some kind that would be similar or substantially similar or identical to what it might be if the hospital were to own this. And essentially, for all intents and purposes, this is a hospital building. They will be operating it. We may have title to it, but it will be the hospital's operation. And so we'll come back to you after we have city approval. That's what we will be seeking, and in addition to sales tax and those sorts of things that will be a benefit to making this happen, and as Jason mentioned, a direct savings to the hospital. And so what I want to do is share with you what we developed. I'm trying to think of how I can do this. Can you all see this if I move this up? Is
You
that
may have to come
You might
closer to
have
the
to
face.
closer?
Go right up to the-
So what I'm gonna,
Where is it?
The computer's
The
over
computer.
Use above the, which way?
this way, the
The
laptop.
TV.
No, I know, but
The-
you're saying, I'm watching.
Yeah,
up there.
come closer to the laptop.
Laptop,
Closer even?
yes,
Yep.
there you go.
How's that?
That's good. That's good.
Okay, and what I'm gonna do is just turn for a moment too, for the people, the benefit of the people here. So this, what this shows is, as you can see, we've located this in the front of the parking lot on North and Lansing Street at the corner. And there's a couple things that are important to accomplish by doing that. One, it is a really, I think, attractive and new building that there's a great incentive to have it up on the street front and improve the streetscape up on the front. And so the other thing that's important is to have it on the hospital grounds. And Jason knows more about the importance of that, but it has to do with the ability to recover the drug costs and that sort of thing, and how the billing system works for that. So we are locating it right up on the street front. I think it's a very attractive building. You'll see the elevations have various look to them. So the corner of the building is essentially, and I'll show you when we get to the floor plan, is where the linear accelerator is located, and that has about 4 or 5 feet of concrete around it, and so that's why this looks like a big block building. And I think what the architects have done is nice, and it will be unique, and there's some additional features that are hard to see on here that will give it a little more character. And then in the middle of the building, there's a gabled roof structure that adds a little shape to it. And as you get off to the northern end, there's this side of the building will have more of the chemo and infusion treatments, and I'll show you that when we get to the floor plan. There's a lot of windows on this end of the building, which will be nice for people as they're sitting there receiving their treatment. This is the other side of the building, so if you were to visualize the hospital, this would have a parking lot in between the hospital, and this would be the front, essentially now the front of this cancer center building. It'll have a drop off. I'll show you that there. And so there's a nice portico with a drop off for patients, and then the parking lot. And this is another perspective of that same kind of area. Let's see, you can see down at the other end, there's a lot of windows, and that's where the infusion area is, and so there will be a lot of ability to sit and have a nice visual outside those windows. We plan to have a nice healing garden and some nice plantings that will be attractive to look at. And then this is kind of a look, if you were across the street on North Street, what the, from a distance, I know there's no grass field there, but it just gives you a sense with a perspective of what the building would look like. This is another kind of with a little more angle to it on the same visual, and allows you to see kind of the windows where the healing garden would be over on this side as well. And then this is the site plan. You can see where the building's situated between the hospital over here, the building, and then parking here, utilizing the same access on Lansing, and circulation here, drop off, and then be able to pull out. And then there'll be a shared and coordination between the hospital and the other adjacent uses. And then lastly, and this may be a little hard for you to depict exactly what's happening here, but this is the floor plan of the building. You would come in, there's a little lobby, sitting, waiting area. This side of the building, this has the linear accelerator. This has a CT scan, and would allow people who are coming in to essentially just come right in. Waiting area for people who do need to sit and wait. And then this end of the building is the area for infusion treatment, and has all the windows and then some various offices and patient visit offices and doctor's offices as well. Essentially what's happening here in the hospital is working very closely with our design team, is that you have a very comprehensive, self-sustaining cancer center on the campus, so that there's all the services that are needed will be within this building, and it'll be fully staffed by Auburn Community Hospital nurses and staff, and then the upstate doctors will be on site. So that gives you an idea of the building, and we're available for any questions.
Jason, can you clarify for me, will this be for adult cancer patients only, or will it also have services for pediatric cancer patients? I ask because I'm the mother of a pediatric cancer survivor, so I know that drive to Syracuse like that.
Yeah, I would actually have to check on that, but I can get back to you on that.
I'm just curious about it. As I said, I had that experience 20 some years ago for my daughter. But I think this is a beautiful facility. I think it's a great idea. I think our hospital's doing pretty interesting and amazing things in the way that you're looking at your service delivery models. So I'm really excited. Thank you for bringing this way of doing this piece of business to our community.
Jason, Roger Beer, I just had a quick question. Do you have any sense of from the Department of Health about the viability of the certificate of need? I mean, you feel pretty confident that it's going to be approved?
We hope so. I mean, we had a lot of input from SUNY. They have a letter of support for the project with Dr. Corona. The numbers show that it would be a positive cash flow. You know, the hematology side of things has been going great for us, right? That's moving into that building. The radiation isn't as profitable because of it's so capital intensive, right? But we hope, I mean, you never know, but we hope that it gets approved. SUNY reviewed our application. They were very involved in the projections, giving us data, you know, on that. So, you know, you never know until you know, but you know, we're confident it's going to get approved. The question would be, we're not contributing a lot of equity to it. So that's why anything, you know, anything that can help us in that regard, if questions come up, I think would be helpful, right? In terms of reducing our operating costs for the building and the triple net and whatnot. But, you know, I think it will get approved. It could take a few months, right? It takes everything slowed down a little bit. So it went in December and, you know, we haven't had any questions yet. They are looking at it. So we're hoping that it'll be approved within the next couple of months.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else have questions?
I do.
Thank you very much. That was a great presentation.
Go ahead, Jim.
Jim, actually, I have some questions.
You have a question,
Can I
Terry?
go next?
Jimmy Giantino has some questions.
Yeah, I think Bill was asking questions too. I don't want to step all over. I think he froze up though.
I'll have to exit and everything.
I guess,
Other people that unmute and are frozen.
so what is the overall price tag of the project?
14 million.
14 million.
Okay, I've got a few things. Yeah, Jim, I have a few things.
I was wondering when you were going to bring them up, Bill.
Yeah, do you guys hear me?
Yeah, but your photo's locked up.
Do you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now, Bill.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
He may not be able to hear us.
I'm sending a message right now. And we should disconnect and reconnect.
Jimmy, do you want to keep asking?
Yeah, what would the lease period be? 10 years, 20 years? 30?
It's a 20-year with a 10-year extension, so it would be about a 30-year right now, it'd be a 30-year agreement.
And the reason I asked this, I mean, you know, full disclosure, we attempted to do a project like this at the city when we were doing the public safety building. That was the original proposal that was brought to us, and what we found was it greatly escalated costs rather than us doing it ourselves. And the $1 million question was at the end of it, who owns it?
That's right.
And nobody could ever answer that question for us, which was very odd to me. And then that's why we kind of scrapped that and went the way we went. And obviously we were fortunate enough to get state funding and federal funding to help us build what we have now. So I say that understanding both sides of the story, that this makes it affordable for you to do, but what does it do to the overall cost of it? It's basically my question, and what that time period would be. Are you seeking additional federal and state funding for this project on top of a pilot?
No, not at this time, no. We have some other grants that we've just put in for the Department of Health transformation grants. So we put another $21 million in yesterday to locate a cardiac center on campus and to expand our operating rooms.
Hi, Rick Cook. So I'm in now.
Who's that?
And we just had a $12 million grant that we used to buy the former Cuyahoga County Nursing Home, to buy the Nelson Street building next door to us. And then we're in the process of renovating 16,600 square feet in the hospital to convert that to physician office space.
And the reason I ask about additional federal and state grants, looking at the governor's executive budget for 2022, 2023, there is significant funding in there for what I would believe would be this type of project. Modernizing hospitals, recognizing that healthcare in this state is taking a hit, that there hasn't been significant investment in healthcare across the state. And COVID actually uncovered all that, right? What a lot of people already knew. And, you know, would that be a route that you could take to help finance this project? Understanding that the property's already not on the tax rolls, but if we're building, I mean, what do we think that this building's gonna be a $14 million building?
$9 million.
$9 million building. You know, if it could be built with state funding, privately owned, that the city, the county, the school district could recoup that tax base. Because that's something that we have to walk that line and justify it, not only in our minds, but to the taxpayers as well. Yes, are we, you know, supporting a project that brings good to the community while also understanding that that tax base gets smaller and smaller, both through population and through properties that are off the tax roll. So that's why I'm asking that question. If there was an opportunity to go after other funds.
Yeah, we built in an opportunity to purchase the building, right? So we can ask for a grant, right, to try to get that paid for at some point to buy it back. And that would be the goal, is to buy it back, you know, if we can. But we have been very successful raising a lot of money, you know, through our own means other than state funding. And yes, there's a lot of money in that. Any political help we can get to get it, we would love that, to do that. The state has been very supportive of Auburn in the last few years with the $12 million grant and other monies that we received, and we hope that we can get more on that side. This pays for itself, you know, in terms of the project. Again, it's a parking lot, and you know, right now there isn't any, you know, we aren't paying any property taxes on that lot. But it would benefit, you know, at least 200 people a year who are making that daily drive to get their radiation services. And, you know, we treat everybody, no matter if they can afford it or not. So.
How many additional jobs do you forecast this to create?
There'd be 6 or 7 more jobs than what we have now. It's about 400,000 in payroll for those jobs.
Are they nurses? Are they
Yeah,
physicians?
nurses. Yeah, nurses. It's a professional contract with SUNY, so we'd be paying them directly for the physician portion. So that's not included. It'd be nurses, assistants.
Bill, are you back on yet? I'm sure what Bill wanted to ask was labor and using local labor. What is the game plan? And how many people?
Yeah, hopefully you guys can hear me. You can't hear me.
We can.
He's not coming through.
I can, maybe he can call in.
If you want me to address the labor question, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, please.
I don't know if he's gonna hear you, but hold on a second. Why don't we just have him call in? He seems to be having issues with his internet.
Are you calling him?
I just sent him a text and asked him to call in.
Real quickly while we're waiting on Bill.
Do you have a number that you can call?
This is Rob Poyer, one of the attorneys for the authority. Is the actual medical equipment going to be part of this project and part of the financial assistance that you're going to be seeking sales tax assistance with? Or would you be doing like a TELP or something for that?
We have a lease, signed up, vendor finance lease for the equipment.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Was she able to get a hold of Bill?
We're in the process right now.
Maybe I want to make sure I'm understanding the timing. So you said it, if I heard you correctly, so tell me if I didn't. You said at some point you might be coming to us with interest about a pilot. Did I hear you say that correctly?
Well, yes, yes, we would be looking at, so we want to go through and I think follow the normal course of going through the city planning process first, and then after that's completed, we'd be coming back here looking for assistance, the sales tax, you know, a payment in lieu of tax agreement that's currently as Jason said, it's not on the tax roll, and if the hospital did it all on its own, it wouldn't be taxed.
Right.
In any way,
Right.
as well, and so, yes, we would be coming back to try to work that out after. At this point, we really just wanted to give everyone an introduction to the project and let you know what we're doing and make you aware of it, and then be able to have this conversation, have any of your questions that we can answer addressed.
I think I just wanted to understand. I thought that's what I heard.
And just while we're waiting to the timing,
If and when you go for a pilot, how long a pilot would you be looking for?
I think we'd be looking for the term of the lease, because honestly, it's a hospital project, and so the benefit during the 30-year term for the benefit of the hospital is what we'd be looking for.
A 30-year pilot?
Correct.
Okay.
Again, the way it's structured for the deal, the way the deal works, the hospital is responsible for all the taxes. So it's not, you know, it's not like you're providing us a direct, as a private developer benefit, you're providing the benefit to the hospital.
Rob, how does that work?
In what respect, though? Where you, or Jim,
The
sorry.
pilot would be held by the hospital, but the construction and all of that would be done by a different entity that's not asking for the pilot?
So no, so the developer is going to, the hospital is going to subdivide the property. They're going to subdivide the property and sell off that acre of land to the developer.
Yeah.
Who's then going to lease it to the hospital. And so all the AIDA would be in privity with the developer, and the developer in the first instance would enter into the pilot agreement with AIDA. And then the pilot payments would be passed through to the hospital as part of the lease.
Okay, but the pilot would be with the contract.
With the developer. Yeah.
Developer.
Yeah.
That's what I thought. Yeah, okay.
So
Yeah.
just to kind of clarify this, and I want to kind of restate it. What I'm imagining is based on what Rob and our guests here have said, is that the public benefit is having a cancer center in Auburn. There's not enough capital to make this property. So Park Grove is going to buy the land, and the pilot's going to be for 30 years. And at the end of 30 years, there's going to be some structure to have the hospital buy back that land. It's interesting. Usually at the end of a pilot, then something goes on back on the tax rolls. But the question that we as a organization need to do is, based on this very unorthodox situation, we need to weigh out, I guess the need as the hospital is identifying for this public service of having a cancer center in Auburn. So, I think if we frame it in the sense of, as it being the need, I get it. And I see the value in that. But I guess what the board needs to do is just kind of like either, see how AIDA fits into that. And I agree with Counselor Giannino, my colleague. I do think there is value in having the city really push the state for trying to get help funding for this, because it is definitely a worthwhile project, and as however much funding can be secured for a project like this can lessen the load of the pilot and lessen the load on the taxpayers. So I think as you go in the planning process, please reach out to the mayor and us on council. We would definitely write letters of support. At least I would write letters of support for this project, because I think there are opportunities out there for funding. But I see the value in the project. I just want to say that, and obviously we're going to need to know a little bit more, but conceptually I get it. So thank you for your presentation today.
Okay, can I go now?
Sure, Bill.
Hello?
You.
Okay,
Yes,
I
Billy.
apologize. I apologize for that, and I appreciate the patience. I've never had that happen. I have Zoom after Zoom after Zoom. So anyways, I've got some things I want to say and that I need to say. I am the representative of labor, and Jim was right. That's always one of my first concerns, local labor. And but the concern I have a lot in my heart for Auburn Hospital. I started there and worked in the laundry department when I was a junior in high school. I stayed there for 10 years until I moved on. And I love the place, but my heart breaks every time I'm in there. And you're talking about building this cancer center, and I am a cancer survivor. And I know the importance of it. I just had my oldest sister die of pancreatic cancer down in North Carolina. I understand the importance of it, but I have some thoughts. Right now, the AFSCME 3124 group, which is where I cut my teeth, is in contract negotiations. Last time it took forever. What they received, I couldn't believe they accepted. I wouldn't have taken that garbage and just excuse me, it's just me saying what I believe in my heart. I wouldn't have taken that garbage to any of my members. I would have been impeached. Healthcare, substantial increases, very little increases in money. They're all understaffed. All my brothers and sisters that work there are all understaffed from every department. Nurses' aides running around not knowing what to do next because they're so busy. And then my brothers and sisters from SEIU, they are so understaffed. They are so incredibly understaffed. So people are very poorly treated there. RNs, you have to pay big money to, or you don't get them. But the rank and file people that make that place go are so underpaid and so mistreated. And every time there's a contract, there's a big, well, we can't do it. We can't do a quarter. Come on. So, and then the other thing is, I don't like the way you treat the people. Plus, I don't like the way the place looks. With COVID, I haven't been up there much. Plus, my family goes very little there anymore because there's no confidence. But if you go into the ER and you sit there, it's dirty. It's falling apart. Doors don't work. Automatic doors don't work. The last time I was in there, there was a family from not in this area. They were here visiting family. I think they were from Utica. And they're looking around. They say, will you look at this place? What? They said, what the hell kind of dump is this? So we have all these, and you guys all know it. I'm not talking smack. You guys all know it. The place is falling apart. And it needs to be fixed. So, and then one of the other thoughts I have is the confidence in that hospital is so incredibly low. And I know it. I'm an Albernian. I know it. They're my sisters and brothers. Are people even going to go there? I'm going to tell you what, if I have cancer, I don't give a damn who's running it. I won't go there. And it's not the people, it's the administration. I don't want them having any of my insurance money. They have taken what was a great, proud community hospital and they have ripped it to the floor. It is disgusting. And then we find out, holler at me if you want. Mr. Scott makes $250,000, which is
Bill?
more than upstate.
Bill,
Yeah.
that's for another time. Could you?
Oh, okay. Listen, I have to.
Bill, you're welcome anytime to come up and talk to me and we can go through hospital finance. And as far as the union stuff, I think you need to talk to them about what's going on there.
I do. I talk to Maureen Cole all the time.
I think you should talk to them today. So before you get into all this in a public meeting, but this hospital is a community asset, that employs the
Gentlemen,
$70 million a year.
let's make it, let's set up, you can set up appointment between you two after the meetings. Bill, you had some questions for the developer?
Yeah, well, I want to make sure it's done the right way. We have gotten burned on this several times where they say they're going to do this, that, and the other thing. My favorite story is the car wash out on Grand Ave that had no business even asking for anything. And he has this long story how, well, it's a prefab and it's this and the electrical is this and this is that. Well, then one day I picked my grandson up from high school and he wanted a shake from Burger King. So there's this construction truck there, a truck, a dump truck. And I looked over and it says so-and-so paving, Rochester, New York, 585. So I called poor Tracy. He was probably ready to go out of her mind. And I flipped. I said, are you kidding me? With all the local paving companies we have here, so we have not been respected on this. So now when we have these kind of projects in that local labor, I know you can't get all of it from Auburn and Cuyahoga County because we're small, but what you can get, you have to get. So I'll shut up now, but Jason, I'll call you tomorrow. I have a great deal of respect for Jason. I've known him forever. He's a good man. He knows his finances as well as anyone I've ever had. But I just want you to know the way it stands now, I will not support it because I'm blue collar and my brothers and sisters are blue collar and I take care of them. I always have and I always will. I love it. When I was looking at the pictures, it all looks great. You know, it would look great on that corner, but I have a lot of questions that need to be answered. So,
just one thing.
Just to finish this up, there are, it should be understood, and you'll get the paperwork if you apply for a pilot, that it describes the labor requirements for that the pilot requires to move forward on it. So just I wanted you to keep that in mind.
Hey, Jim.
Okay.
Jim. Tony's got something he wants to say.
Thanks, Jim. I really take offense to this as chairman of the board of that hospital. That management team up there and the trustees, this is a full-time job for me and non-paying full-time job, by the way. And I still have a day job, but these people work their heart and soul. And through this pandemic, I cannot tell you how important these people have been. And I really take offense to you saying that the hospitals are done. Look at our financials. When you meet with Jason and he goes through, you'll understand we can't do everything. We don't have the money. We don't have the people. We can't hire people. I mean, we would hire 36 nurses that were down. We'd hire them today if we had them. But I just, I don't even know what I want to say, but I take offense to all of this, and I agree. And we did the staff.
And that's what this is. The truth hurts. I take care of common
It's
people.
not true. Yeah, I
I
would
don't
take
give a
you
damn
around that
about
hospital and
this
show you.
building.
Gentlemen,
I'd like to offer something for consideration. And I appreciate you because I would agree that I think this conversation could be more appropriately had outside of this meeting because Andy came here for a specific purpose. But I think there's a kernel of something we all want to pay attention to as community leaders who really care about the health and well-being of the community. And however we are about Auburn Community Hospital, the reality is that it's here. And I think, and Bill, I'm not at all negating how you're feeling. I just think there's a kernel of something, and I wrote this down, that messaging is gonna really matter. That how we talk about this together, and I wanna say this to you because you're probably like, so what I wanna say to you is that I think everything you're hearing is legit and real because it's what people, for themselves, right?
Sure.
But I think that as you're coming into the community to do this, helping everyone, I think Terry did a great job of sort of synthesizing what it is you're trying to do here, and I think to make it easier for those of us, should we get into a relationship, right, to communicate about what we're doing, because we're the ones that'll be in wetlands, right? When people are all of us together. And the other thing is that I think that whenever projects like this emerge, there's always all kinds of dynamics about it. I think once the community decides, and whatever role AIDA will have in that if this is going to go forward in the community, I think we have to start speaking in one voice about this and doing the best that we can. And that doesn't preclude Bill having the opportunity to feel the way he feels, our two city councilor colleagues. I'm sitting here as a consumer of the hospital services that have, been around the track a few times myself. But I think in the end, the purpose of tonight was to allow the hospital through Andy to talk about this potential project. And what I just want to say to you is that kind of you're hearing what bubbles underneath the surface. I get a feeling you ain't new to this. And really, Bill, I want to let you know that I'm not negating your concerns at all. I just want to say for Andy, I think it's important as you're coming into the community to do this, that everything you're hearing in this room is bubbling somewhere. And so the more you can help us understand this project, help communicate it to the community with clarity, and help address some of the objections that could come up, the better positioned you'll be to do that. And then the better position we will be at the point that you need to come here to ask for the pilot.
Sure.
To look at that in a really good way.
Sure.
Does that resonate with you?
Absolutely,
Okay.
I appreciate it.
I think we all agree that this is not the venue for that discussion, and it's time to move on. Does anybody have any actual questions that they'd like to ask about the project? Again, thank you very much for your presentation. We appreciate it.
Thank you, we appreciate your time, and we look forward to working with you, and look forward to moving this forward, so thank you.
I'll be in touch.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, no problem. Welcome to the burn. People talk about the hospital. Our physician practice 10,000 patients last month.
Hey, Gwen,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Gwen,
Uh-huh.
Gwen, before we go on, I appreciate your words. You're
I know
much
you
more
do.
level-headed than
That's
I.
okay. I know you're passionate about that, and I know how hard you fight for the people that you support and represent. So I want to let you go. No, I wasn't negating your concern, your feelings at all. I just think that for Andy, he's heard a lot of things, and I think it's really incumbent upon him in partnership with the hospital to figure out how they're going to position this project in our community so that it will be experienced in a positive light. And once everybody's questions are answered, if the goal is to get behind it, inclusive of us offering up a pilot at that time, that he understands what he's walking into and is prepared. So I want to let you know that I heard you, and thank you for hearing me. And I understand your passion, and I'm glad that you're willing to go and continue this conversation with Jason and Tony at the hospital, because I think if that's your experience, then you need to explore that and figure things out with them. So thank you for hearing what I said from my place of intention.
Okay.
The Rjc Development. Danielle?
So Rjc Development has submitted their AIDA application. They are seeking All three initiatives, the sales and use tax, mortgage recording abatement, and then the pilot. The board should have received all their packets, and there is a resolution in here for the application.
Are they on the call?
They are, Ryan Coe is on the call, and Holly is also on to answer any questions that the board may have about the application. Did you want me to give a little overview, or would you like Ryan to give a little overview of this?
Why don't you, in case, I mean, we hopefully everybody's read the application, but just give a quick overview if you would, please.
Sure, I love unique structured applications. So Ryan Coe is the president of 3 companies. Rjc Development, which is his real estate company, residential and commercial. He's also the owner of Ryco, which is a landscaping company. And then Apex Truck and Auto, which is a startup, which will be an auto mechanic shop. This project, he recently acquired the parcel behind Walmart on John Walsh Boulevard. And RJC will be the lead agent or the lead project on this. And Apex and Ryco will be the tenants of the building.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions that they'd like to bring forward? I hope you've all read the application.
Is that Ryan?
It is Ryan.
Ryan, this is Gwen Weber McLeod. Thank you for popping in via Zoom.
No problem.
And
How
I
are
think
you?
that Danielle did a good job giving us an overview. I was wondering if you had anything else you wanted to let us know about your project. I think I need a little more help in understanding what you're doing, so.
Say that one more time. I'm
I said, I
sorry.
think I need a little more help in understanding what this project really is.
Okay, so we're a Ryco's a landscape excavation company. We've been in the area for coming up on 10 years, and we're pretty much out of space where we currently are. So what this new project would be doing would be housing Ryco Enterprise, which is a landscape excavation company, and also another company, Apex Truck and Auto. So this would be our home base where our employees would come to start work, where we keep all of our equipment, where our offices would be, where we're able to do repairs and maintenance on vehicles, and also service the community with selling some retail and also being able to work on, medium to heavy duty trucks and autos.
Got it. And you're looking to purchase a piece of property to put what is it?
They've already purchased the property,
Okay.
so they're looking to put a new constructed building on the parcel.
Got it. Okay, great. Thank you. I'm picking up what you're putting down, Ryan.
Perfect.
Ryan,
Okay.
Roger Beer, I used to have a slip with you on Pulsifer.
Yes, sir. I remember you.
Boy, God. Anyways, some heavy currents in that river. And
Oh,
as you
yeah.
found out again last summer. Just looking at the just a couple, I guess, technical questions. You're looking for the bank financing's $1.2 million, and you're coming in with $1.215 million of your own equity. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, because that pretty much, I don't know, you're just looking at your balance sheet, it kind of takes care of most of the equity you have there. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I'm selling a lot of we have a deal that's selling a lot of our properties that Rjc Development selling. We have a deal that's under contract right now, and so that should be taking care of the majority of it.
So most of your assets then in Rjc Development, all the various houses around town and so forth, you're going ahead and liquidating that part of your investments.
I'd say 2/3. With the market as hot as it is right now, it's tough. I know the balance sheet might look a little different, but yeah.
And the other thing, again, just more of a informational type thing in your in Rjc Development, and there you had about over 250,000 in paid in capital. Was that like a capital contribution you made a while back, or?
Yep. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. And same thing, you've got about 50,000 in Ryco. That's money you put in yourself then?
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right.
Terry?
Yes, thanks, Jim. Ryan, welcome to AIDA. And I just have a couple questions. So the Apex Truck and Auto is a startup.
Yep.
And so here's one of the things that I just wanted to just get out there. Much of this depends on the the outlook of this. What gives you the confidence that it's again, brand new kind of company? What experience do you have in automotive repair and truck repair? Like, I know your current business plan is landscaping, excavation, and I know a lot of this new development has to do with something new for you. And once you answer that question, you speculate 57 new positions. Can you lay that out for us, just as far as, the framework? Because that's what AIDA is really here for. We're looking to, have jobs in our, in the city. And so can you lay that out for us, Ryan?
Yeah, so just a little background. Rjc's grown, we doubled in size last year. We have over 25 vehicles on the road. Last summer, we hired a full-time mechanic. We took on a general manager and also a service manager. They're helping manage our fleet right now. These three people did work at another truck repair shop locally. They worked together and had since gone out on their own to different careers, but then we all did come together and plan this out. I am pretty confident between Rjc's growth and a lot of other connections that we have, that we will be able to sustain and grow. We have reached out to a few people that we've worked with before and they've worked with, and they're very excited and pretty much have given us their business. I mean, I obviously can't say it until it's there, but I feel pretty strongly that we have quite a few contracts in place that people that would follow us.
Great, thank you. And the question, so that is basically your the question about growth. How about the employments? The laborers you have ranging 20 to, I believe, like 50 or 65,000. Is part of that range due to like seasonal, or I know the average is about 45,000. Can you go a little bit into, how and why you're confident about that number of employment, 57?
So is this for Rjc? I'm not understanding what you're asking. For Rjc, or number of positions, or
Number of positions, yeah, because you talk about the expansion of the business, but I also am interested in the number of employees that you're intending on.
Are you talking about combined, Terry?
Yeah, and combined total. I think it's 57 total.
Yeah, so obviously both of these companies are labor-based. There's not like a ton of automation we can do. Just Rjc's grown from 10 to 22 employees last year. Granted, I think, once these two companies are put together, we'll be able to combine some things, but with the growth of one, I think they're both going to grow together. With Rjc's business, I mean, like I said, we already have 25 vehicles on the road. I mean, that's a full-time job for somebody in itself, plus being able to sell retail and have like a retail space where people can come in, speak with someone, set up an appointment, also have people there working on vehicles and being able to do roadside calls. I just feel pretty confident. I think I padded our numbers to be on the little cautious side.
So you're more conservative than what we see.
Yeah, I was trying to be realistic on things, and I
Right.
don't think I'm out of line on them, at least from my past experience. But I think we have a really good location, and with our past growth and our reputation, I feel pretty confident with bringing more business there.
Last part of that, and again, like I teach at BOCES, so there are a lot of employers like calling BOCES, the phone's ringing off the hook.
Was that us today? Because we got
Well,
an email
no,
today.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of business looking for employees. Yes, you have those positions available. Are you confident that you can, number one, get those employees, and number two, retain those employees? And like, what is it that makes Rjc the place to work for an employee?
So we are going to start doing a lot more recruiting. It's funny you say that about BOCES because we did send in some hiring ads today. So we actually are going to set up a meeting to go there and speak here in a couple of weeks. But we are really big on company culture. I know, other people might be able to pay more than us, but we do our very best to, go above and beyond, take people out to dinner, show our appreciation, do company culture events, and, really show that we care. Having some space here for the employees too, to be able to, come in and have like a group room where people can hang out and work out and all chat about how their day was and, kind of bring families together too. I think that's a huge thing, being more than just a job.
Great. Thank you.
Very good.
Ryan, this is Gwen Weber McLeod again. I don't know that I know a lot about the real estate part of your business. Do you build or own commercial and residential properties?
Just one commercial, mainly residential. They're just real estate investments.
Okay.
And like you said, you're going to de-emphasize that part of your operation by selling it off. And looking at your 2021 results, your landscaping operation was extremely profitable, and you expect that is going to be where your emphasis is going to be in the future, along with the auto repair. So, is that your essential plan? Is to emphasize the landscaping, grow Apex, and the real estate is whatever is left over, but not a real. You don't see yourself buying a bunch of residential properties in the future, for example.
I wouldn't rule that out necessarily. I do tend to buy a handful a year. That's kind of been my past history, at least. We will see what the market bears, I guess, in the future. At the current prices, it's really tough to buy anything, but I wouldn't be opposed to. I wouldn't want to say I'd rule anything out, but this is going to be my main focus, at least for the next couple of years, of getting this built and getting it running. So I think this will be my main focus.
Brian, this is Jimmy Genentino. I'm also a member of City Council.
How's it going?
I'm well. How are you?
Good. Thanks for asking.
So I guess how I want to explain, so I'm coming from a place, while I'm serving in my capacity of AIDA right now, I'm going to put my city councilor hat on for a minute, and it's public, so I can say it. We sold you a parcel of land for a very favorable price. It was assessed for a significantly higher number than we sold it to you for. There was some criticism of that, but we felt that this was a opportunity to develop that land. There wasn't much interest in it. You were talking about expanding your company, but now putting on the AIDA hat, I'm looking at the numbers of the pilot agreement, and it's significant tax abatement on top of sales tax abatement. And something that we've got to justify, or at least I've got to justify, is the total price tag of it, right? And the fact that we did sell this property to you for a very, very fair cost, and then to also have to give these types of tax incentives, and that's something I'm going to be honest, I'm struggling with.
I can definitely understand your concerns, and I think I am very grateful for what the city sold us the land for, but I don't think anybody realizes how much work has to be done there. I mean, we spent $40,000 on a set of engineered plans, and there's a couple $100,000 just in site work, just to create the compensatory value for how much water comes in there. Majority of the properties in a floodplain. And that's, like I said, I'm very grateful for buying the property at that rate, but there's a lot of work that has to be done to make that work.
And then that was, to be honest, that was part of the argument that our staff presented to us, why we should sell it at a reduced rate. That it was land that was not attractive to a lot of people, that there were issues that would have to be abated in order to make it usable. And that was part of the reasoning that I could justify selling you that land for the price tag that we sold it to you for. So that went into my initial decision. Did I know the actual scope of it? Absolutely not.
I don't think I did either until getting into it further.
Is any of that land registered with the DEC as wetland?
No.
Okay, it's just, it's not considered a DEC wetland.
Correct. From my understanding, there's a floodplain and a floodway. The floodway cannot be touched. The floodplain, you can, as long as you add compensatory volume to it, you can kind of adjust with where the building has to be.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
also see that there was a short assessment attached to it, correct? So we got a sense of some of the, you know, just the lay of the land, like we were saying, the flood element. So that's it.
Does anybody else have any questions, Brian? Thank you very much. That was a good presentation, and I think you answered our questions. We have your application, so we'll move forward on this.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ryan.
Thanks, Ryan.
Danielle,
Yes,
are we ready? Is the paperwork sufficient to go to public hearing?
I think it is.
Is everybody in agreement that we should go to public hearing on this? Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Why don't we set that up?
Jim, you need to approve the initial resolution.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Jim, the initial resolution calls for a public hearing.
Yeah,
So there's an initial resolution in the package that provides preliminary approval for accepting the application, holding a public hearing, considering sales tax, pilot, and mortgage tax abatement. And then there's one additional component to this one because it's more than 33% retail. So ultimately, well, we have to make a finding that the property is in a highly distressed area. And then after the public hearing, we need to ask the mayor to confirm our findings that, that the project will create a significant number of new jobs to justify the retail exception.
okay.
So that is the resolution.
Okay, then the initial project resolution for Rjc Development Incorporated, a regular meeting of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority was convened at 2 State Street via teleconference and video conference in the city of Auburn on February 16th, 2022 at 5 p.m. The following resolution was duly offered and seconded. Resolution, well, it hasn't been offered and seconded yet. The resolution of the Auburn Industrial Development Authority accepting the application of Rjc Development Incorporated with respect to a certain project as more fully described below, authorizing a public hearing with respect to the project and describing the forms of financial assistance being contemplated by the authority. Is there a motion, please?
So moved.
Second,
I'll second.
is there any further discussion? Roll call vote, please.
Mr. Daisy,
Aye.
Mr. Andre,
He hopped off.
oh, okay. Ms. Laura McLeod,
Aye.
Mr. Gasper,
Aye.
Mr. Cuddy,
Yes.
Mr. Beer,
Aye.
Mr. Giantino,
Aye.
Mr. Gravis,
Aye.
Ms. McIntyre.
Aye.
Okay. We'll have to set that up then.
Yeah, do you want to do it right before the March meeting?
Yeah, that can be video conference there, right?
Sure.
I'm not sure if I'm going to be back, but I could probably do a video conference. Okay, I'll talk to you then about that. Okay. There was no finance committee meeting held today. One thing should be noted that on the agenda tomorrow at City Council will be a resolution to appoint Lisa Green to the AIDA board. And Mr. Beer will then be stepping down. And I do appreciate your patience, Roger. Thank you.
Jim, may I say just a couple words?
Sure.
So I just want to echo what Jim said, and obviously, Roger, we appreciate your time on the AIDA board. Your presentations going over the treasurer's report, balance sheet, and budget reports have always been helpful and useful. But ultimately, I just want to let you know that you've really witnessed a lot of growth and helped foster and nurture that growth for this organization. So we're very grateful for your service. And although we're sad to see you go, we know that your replacement is very very skillful herself, and I think we'll be in good hands, and we'll be a good she'll step right into your shoes and continue to do a good job. And so thank you, Roger, for your service.
I would second that. I was about to say something, but Terry said it perfectly. Thank you.
You're welcome. And the only thing I would ask is that I hope going forward next month and thereafter that I don't see board meetings being held in Naples, Florida, instead of Auburn, New York. So
Hey, I'm not in Naples.
okay. No. So good luck.
I think
I'm in
Fort Myers Beach.
Yeah. I certainly Tracy and the rest of the crew left the organization in pretty solid financial shape. These projects today that we are entertaining is another example of a possible favorable financial future for the organization. And the website having been developed and so forth. So pretty solid record of achievement by the board and by the staff, and I hope it continues. And I agree. You are getting a extremely talented woman in Lisa Green, and you'll find she's far more pleasant at these meetings than I am. So I think you'll really enjoy having her
I
aboard.
worked with her on the school board, and she's definitely going to be an asset.
No question. So good luck to Lisa.
Very good. Thank you again, Roger.
You bet.
Does anybody
welcome.
else to say anything? Okay. Are there any board member updates that anybody wanted to bring up?
And I have a comment. I just actually have a comment and something that I'm just personally curious about. And I think when folks come to do their project presentations to us, I think it would be really helpful to understand a little bit about their professional reputations in our community. When we are giving these opportunities to people, I just think it's really important that we that at least, I'll tell you that I know, y'all might know, I don't always know who we're dealing with. So I'd like a little more maybe, I mean, I read their projects, but I want to understand more about who's in the room with us and what they're asking for. And I want to always make sure that we're really able to be proud of who we're providing this particular type of support to. So Dania, I don't know how that comes to the table. I know we all have our own experiences with folks, but that to me is really important as well. Since we really worked hard to establish criteria, I want to make sure that we're in these types of relationships with people that we'd be proud to stand with and for. And I think when someone comes from out of town in particular to do something, that's even important, because I'm married to someone who has DNA in the dirt, and I've lived here for almost 40 years, and they still think I'm from Watertown. You know, I call it outsiderism, right? But we have to be able to stand with our folks that are coming into the community, which I'm totally in support of, to do great things. I think the more we understand about the reputations they're bringing into our community with them, the better. And the more we understand about the evolving reputations of the people in the community that we're going to support, I think the better. Because we're going to have to be the messengers of these projects at some point as well, especially whoever the new CEO is.
I have a question for Rob. Could we change the application to require a brief synopsis of what the individual has done, or maybe a resume or something like that? I don't know where the law stands on that. That might be a good place to get it. When we're reading the application, we know who the person is that's applying.
There's no reason we can't require bios or resumes.
And do it on the application?
Yeah.
Okay. Does that sound good, Gwen?
Yeah, I'm confident that most people that are coming for us are probably professionally capable of doing their job. So I guess I'm interested in that, but I'm more interested in what is the reputation of the business that they're walking into the room with. And so I don't know how we get at that. Like, it would be my style to say, well, if I ask somebody about you, what would they say? Like, I have that in me. I just didn't do it. But that's important for me to understand that as well. This isn't coming from nowhere. There's a reason that I'm saying this. But I think it's just really important that we know who we're partnering with. Like, I don't know Andy, and so, or his business. And so I think that that's just important. So if they want to add like their professional resume, that's fine. I'm more interested in how, if I stood on the Genesee Street and said this business's name, what would people say back to me? I'm more interested in that, is what I'm talking about. And I think that's important, because we're signing off on giving them the support. And I'm all about what AIDA does. I just think that if we're intentional about the ongoing growth of our community, and I see increasing numbers even in the not-for-profit community, people coming in wanting to affiliate, I just want to understand what their reputations are before we sign off on a document that's going to do some things that people might not be so happy about. That's all. So I think we're relatively on the same page. And if Rick or wants to talk to me more about that, I'd be glad to kind of tell you what I'm thinking. Are you getting what I'm saying? Anybody?
I understand it completely.
Thank you.
And I'll even say that from a city point of view, we're getting ready to vote on our CDBG action plan for 2022, 2023, and there's significant monies that are available for assistance with landlords and things like that. I actually just brought this up to our staff today. Are we going to look and see if there's code violations on these properties? Do they have a history of code violations? Are their taxes paid? All those kinds of things. And I really think that that's what Gwen's getting at. Like, what is the reputation? If we're going to give significant tax benefit to somebody, do they have a history of being a good player or a bad player?
From the perspective of the AIDA statute and any IDA statute, the concern always is you have to make a decision based off what's best for the community, or what's best for the city of Auburn, being the city being comprised of its people, not necessarily the government.
Mm-hmm.
I guess the question would arise, what happens if someone with a bad representation comes with a project that's really good for the community? What do you do then?
What would I do?
I guess-
Well,
I
and you know,
guess-
it's a rhetorical question.
I get
It doesn't need to be answered at this point.
Right,
But it's just something to think about when doing that, particularly in these days with people can get their reputation smeared online, you know, which might not be the reality. I understand what you're saying, but it needs to be fit within the rubric of the overarching duty of the board to always do what is best for the community.
I can give you an example of when I think we did that, is when the young folks who were talking about wanting to bring their cannabis business into the community. I think the subject matter made us ask a number of questions, but I think that the way that we engaged them in conversation and the nature of the questions that were posed to them really gave us some insight to how they might be experienced in other communities in which they're doing business. And, you know, I totally hear you.
No, I don't disagree with you.
You know, I know, we're on the same page.
No, I think we are. I just want to emphasize that point
Right.
that, you know, simply because someone might have a bad reputation either in the community or you know, worse online, or if they're outside of the community. For example, if you do research on whatever this gentleman's name was in his company and it has a bad reviews online potentially, it's difficult to say, you know, just because he has, you know, maybe some bad reviews online that the project itself would not be good for the community. So you need to take that. You need to look at the whole picture, in other words. So, but
Did you work with Danielle about what we could put on the application that
Yes.
might help to answer some of the things that I'd appreciate it.
yeah, no, I think it makes sense. I think it makes sense. But I'm just playing devil's advocate slightly.
No, we should. We want to make sure that if we're going to go down that path, that we're doing it in an honorable way and with strategic intent. And so, as among a couple of my colleagues here who get it on Facebook all the time, we understand that we don't want to just go by something that someone else is saying. I'm glad you can also hear that from my place of intention. Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, if nobody has anything else?
I got one question.
Do we have a?
Where are we with the hiring of the executive director for CETA?
Say that again?
Where are we in the process of hiring the CEO for CETA?
We got a meeting. They had a meeting last week and I was on the road, so I couldn't attend it. But what they did was they fleshed out the questions. They've got it down to X amount of applicants, and then we're going to set up meetings with them with specific questions that will be asked of each individual.
Okay.
Same questions, but each individual will be asked them.
Thank you.
Okay. It's a process. There's an ABO training on March 9th at 9:30 in the morning. Our next meeting is March 16th at 5 p.m. and it will continue to be remote. For anybody that wants that, is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions carried. Thank you very much.